afternoon to you at home, to James Savundra, Dan Bardell and Dave Reed. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta wouldn't be drawn on the length of time Gabriel Jesus could be out for. The forward suffered a suspected ACL injury in the FA Cup defeat to Manchester United on Sunday.
Yeah, we know more now, and it's not looking good at all. But we need to review one more specialist, so probably we'll have the total information this afternoon. I don't want to confirm anything again till we have the final report this afternoon, and I think it's the doctor's job to do that. But yeah, we were very worried straight away after the game, and we are very worried today.
So I don't want to be a pessimist, but there's a chance it could be a season-ending injury.
Well, again, let's wait till this afternoon.
Obviously, with this injury to Jesus, potentially quite serious, does that change your thinking about the transfer window?
We are actively looking in the market to improve the squad, and that's been since day one. We will be naive not to do that, because it's an opportunity always to evolve the team, to improve the squad, and especially with the circumstances that we have. So yes, we are looking and we are trying, and let's see what we are able to do.
Mikel Arteta talking there. Dan, I'm going to start with you. Suspected ACL injury. We know players likely to miss large periods of time. How big of a blow is this, not just for Gabriel Jesus, but for Arsenal as well?
Yeah, obviously, first off, for the player, it's bad news. Just when he's started to get back into some form, he's been in the goals recently, got himself back in the team, and now just as he'll feel he's got himself going, potentially his season's over. So sad news for the player. From an Arsenal perspective, it feels pretty big to me. It feels like something that might end up shaping their January, because whereas before maybe they were just looking for opportunities like they have done previously in Januaries with Jorginho and Trossard, for example, a few Januaries ago, it now feels like they might need to move away from opportunistic signings, and that this is now a necessity. This is something that they have to do, because there's no doubt with injuries, and maybe even without the injuries, they're short in the forward positions. They've only got Havertz in the squad that can play centre forward. They've let players go in the summer that can play in that position. It feels now that, they've got 2 weeks here. It's not a case of, if something comes up, that they need something to come up now, Arsenal, because they are short. And if they want to maintain the challenges on all fronts, the Champions League, the Premier League, possibly still the Carabao Cup, if they can turn the second leg around, they're going to need another forward option, because there's a long way to go yet in this season.
Yeah, so Jesus out for a while. Dave, how Arsenal fans would love for one of these players to be still at the club.
I know. Arsenal have had some iconic forwards down the years, and we wanted to pick out a few of them for you this afternoon. All of these players you see here have won major honours at the club, and all brought something a little bit different as well to the Arsenal teams that they played in. We've got, deep-lying forwards here. We've got creative players. We've got penalty box strikers. We've got off-the-shoulder players. We've got physicality as well amongst the players on the video wall here. Front-line pace. Most of all, though, for Arsenal supporters, they loved the lethal finishing that these players brought to the Arsenal front line. So what about the options Mikel Arteta has at his disposal now? Well, Gabriel Jesus has suffered that serious knee injury. We expect full confirmation of that this afternoon. And Bukayo Saka is out until at least March, we think. It leaves Arsenal with Kai Havertz, Raheem Sterling, Gabriel Martinelli and Leandro Trossard as the forward options for the manager.
Yeah, James, they let go. Dan sort of vaguely mentioned it earlier. They let go of attacking players in the summer. I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, and they would never have known that Saka was going to be out for a long time and this was going to happen to Jesus. But do you think Arsenal had enough forward options in the summer?
Well, it's important to reflect on what they did in the summer with Emile Smith-Rowe and Eddie Nketiah leaving the club for serious money, it must be said, and pure profit, because they're academy graduates, so that helped them massively from a business point of view and in terms of profit and sustainability. Fabio Vieira and Reiss Nelson both went out on loan as well. All 4 of those players didn't get enough minutes last season, so it was understandable for Arsenal to move those players on, but they didn't really make any replacements in that forward area. Mikel Merino was the most advanced signing in terms of players up the pitch that they brought in, but he's a number 8, so they've not really strengthened that area of the pitch, the front line, for 3 or 4 years, really. When you look at what they've done, they've spent £140 million on 6 forwards over the last 5 years, compared to nearly £300 million on 16 defenders and goalkeepers over the course of Arteta's tenure. You can understand what they've done, and they've really been rewarded in terms of those foundations being really strong. Arsenal have the best defence in the Premier League by some distance. Yes, they've been shipping the odd goal in recent matches, but overall, we saw last season, we've seen this season, that is a really strong foundation they have. The issue is, if Saka, and he's unfit at the moment, Martinelli and Ødegaard aren't firing and almost overperforming in front of goal, that's when they're really going to struggle, and that's when they are reliant on the set pieces. I guess the encouraging sign is that they have been creating chances in the last 2 matches. 20-odd shots against Newcastle, 20-odd shots against Manchester United, but they're missing that person to tuck away those chances, and that is why they're in the situation where they really need to act in this window if they're to save their season, you think.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to be a big month for Arsenal. Now, Sky Germany are reporting that Borussia Dortmund are exploring a deal to sign Arsenal's Alexander Zinchenko. There has been no formal approach. Sky Germany also believe Arsenal are open to allowing him to leave on loan with an obligation to buy of approximately £16.8 million. I mean, Zinchenko's not getting that much game time under Arteta, Dan. They would be getting less or just slightly more than half of what they paid for him when they bought him from Manchester City. Do you feel like this has worked out, Zinchenko to Arsenal?
I think he's probably served his purpose at this point. Him and Jesus were brought in at a time when Arsenal, I think, had just finished 5th in the Premier League, didn't have Champions League football, and these were 2 players that were seen to take Arsenal back into the Champions League. What actually ended up happening, without these 2 probably being important players for Arsenal, they became a title-challenging team for the last couple of years, and it almost moved on from those 2 players a little bit. Those 2 players were no longer what they really required to get themselves to that next level now, which then the next level became actually winning the Premier League. So I think there'll be intangible things that both have offered in terms of being in the dressing room, but I think this season in particular, Miles Lewis-Skelly's development in recent months has hurt Zinchenko. Arsenal have got a lot of players that they can put into that left-back position within their squad. So he's kind of surplus to requirements at this current time, and the development of the youngster is probably more important to Arsenal at this point than a player that isn't going to be seen as being good enough over the next year or 2. So I think, you know, for the fee they paid, the fee that they're going to get back for him, I don't think it's a transfer failure. I just think Arsenal have moved on to a level above that player now.